Melanie, I'm going to start off by asking you to tell me very briefly about what forced marriage actually is.
We speak about forced marriage. Well, there are very many different definitions about the term, but we speak about forced marriage when at least one person of a couple who's going to marry has to marry against his or her wish. That is to say, either the bride or the groom is being put under pressure by the parents or by the family or even the community to marry someone he or she doesn't want to.
Does it take place in different settings? Could you please elaborate on that a bit?
They are very, each case is very specific. This is also what makes it quite difficult to deal with the phenomenon. In general, we say that usually on the basis is a generation conflict. So that means when young people, they come into their teens, questions come up like career, how they want to lead their life as a family, about education and so on. And if those dreams or expectations do not match with the expectations of the parents, there might be a conflict. Now, the risk is higher for young people with a migrant background because obviously those that have grown up here, they might even have been born here in Switzerland, which their parents have not. So it can come to quite an intense conflict between parents and children in which parents try to make their children marry someone they don't want to.
Okay.
And for us, it's important to stress the fact that usually the motives behind it are benevolent. Parents, they don't want to hurt their children or damage their future in any way.
Okay, so Chitra, can you tell me, like, is this prevalent among the Sri Lankan migrant community in Switzerland as well?
Well, we don't have statistics which really tell us, yeah, there's so many cases, but there's a high profile of forced marriages among the Sri Lankan communities, and which is really on a gray zone, you don't, as I say, there's no data, there's no statistics, but with my work, concerning my work and working for them, I have certain cases which come to me, and most of them are the young generation. Either it's forced marriage, well, to be much more clear, in the Sri Lankan community, it's called the proposed marriages. A proposed marriage becomes forced, as Melanie said, once you start pushing the girl or the boy and insisting you have to marry someone that we wish, the parents wish. And then it becomes into a forced marriage. And that's what happens in most cases in the Sri Lankan community, which parents do put pressure on their children to marry someone whom they propose. And this proposed marriage ends up in a forced marriage. And there are quite a lot of them most among women and also among men, not so much as men, yeah, because the men are more privileged.
You yourself, as Melanie, are both working on this working group on forced marriage. Could you tell me a little bit about it, as well as the mechanisms you use to address the forced marriage issue in Switzerland?
Maybe I can first tell a little bit about the whole project. I work in the Office for Gender Equality in the town administration of Zurich, and we have been working on different activities since 2009. This is one of 4 projects in Switzerland that is subsidized by the Federal Office of Migration, to find specific activities to raise awareness, but also help victims to improve their situation. Now, we have different areas of focus. One is to generate knowledge, to understand the theme of forced marriage, and also then to develop material which can be used. For example, those 4 projects have come up with different flyers to help young people if they get into a difficult situation, on which the addresses of helplines and so on are. Then we also have CDs, a film, for example, and different postcards, which can be used in different discussion groups. It can be used in training, in youth groups, for example. The film is also used in youth groups to initiate discussions about the topic.
What we do, I mean, I work, as I said, I work for the Sri Lankan community, and what we try to do for awareness is really, it's a sort of adult learning, you know, because most of the parents, they come with their background. Most of the marriages among the Sri Lankan Tamil community are proposed marriages, and of course they want, it's like a brainwash. It goes on further and further, and they want to give that to their children. And of course the children who are born here or grown up here has difficulty to get along with it, and that becomes into a conflict. And the awareness that I try to do is talking to the parents, doing meditation with it, really trying to work on it, and say that of course your child is born here in different cultures in Switzerland, and it's just not the Sri Lankan culture that we can only keep on with it. So, and that's the only way. And sometimes there is a success in your counseling, and sometimes there's no success, and there are other radical ways, which of course the girl or the boy thinks, okay, I go my way. And if she does go her way, she loses a lot from her family, her environment, her background for the family, everything. Yeah.
Okay, so are there any like legal mechanisms in Switzerland to like protect people who have suffered forced marriage or been forced into marriages such as this?
I mean, in general, what we can say, and that does not only count for Switzerland, is that forced marriage is a severe violation of the universal human rights. So, of course, this is also the case in Switzerland, but there are at the moment discussions in Parliament to change legislation specifically so that forced marriage will be in future considered as a statutory offence in itself. Up to now it has been treated as an assault, but it's planned that it's being implemented as explicitly forced marriage in the Swiss legislation, and that in the future will mean that offenders can get a penalty up to 5 years, and that charges can be pressed during 15 years after a forced marriage has been occurred.
The Swiss government is trying to pass a bill, which this bill is not yet passed in Parliament. And if this bill passes in Parliament, it can be contradicted statements, you know, because I don't know whether it's a good thing, which would help these people to better the situation, or it would worse the situation. And of course the young generation or even any child would not go and complain about their parents. They would complain that they are going through a forced marriage or they're going through violence, but not that they would make an entry against their parents, and that it would be a big problem for them because it's against the whole family.